thank you for inviting me over. I'm very happy to speak today about mental health and how we can support better the crew at sea. So I think mental health has dropped a few times today, so I'm very happy about that. And I want to show a little bit how we can support the crew on board. So actually, I stumbled over this heading, Paradox of Progress and Pressure, when I was looking at the Seafarers' Happiness Index, and I found it quite accurate. And I wanted to show a little bit more here how progress is affecting the mental health of the crew. So I think everyone agrees that the only thing constant in shipping is change. The industry as a whole has to adapt as a change, but also the crew. So a lot of change, of course, is also progress. And I will go a little bit into more detail here. So one is connectivity. Of course, that is great progress. Crew has access 24/7 to internet now. More and more vessels are equipped with Starlink, which is, of course, very positive. But at the same time, it also means that they are constantly available. They have to be available, or their families also want to connect with the seafarers. Of course, that also adds to the pressure for the seafarers on board. There is increased regulatory and compliance demands. Again, it is positive. It is about really strengthening the safety on board, but this also comes along, of course, with port inspections, with increased demands, increased reporting, record keeping, and so on. And that also adds to the stress of the seafarer on board, increased office communication. Of course, there is now 24/7 availability of internet. The positive thing is here that they can get support from the office, but at the same time, sometimes they feel overwhelmed with all the communication coming in, with the follow-ups, maybe with communication that might seem important to the office, not always for the seafarer. Faster turnarounds, operational tempo, which means, of course, much more. A lot is automated now. They get into the port. It's really about getting in, getting the job done, getting out again. But sometimes this means as well shorter time. It means time is money. This adds, of course, to the pressure for the seafarers. It means many times that they can't get off the ship. Back in the days, it was much easier. And on this behalf, and that means seafarers are at times for many, many months on board without going ashore. Geopolitical tensions, this is of course now very relevant, but also as previously mentioned by Apo, the black swans, it's been now some time that there have been pressures and geopolitical tensions, or also, for example, COVID, the Ukraine war, the Red Sea tensions, and now the Iran conflict. And of course that significantly adds to their mental load and health, although of course there is more support now from the offices, there's live updates, security departments, but of course many times mental health is heavily impacted. Eco-anxiety, two things here. One is, of course, that there has been a lot of change. There's decarbonization targets, cleaner fuels available. It is really about making a good change here, but at the same time, this means, again, a lot of pressure for the seafarers, a lot of technologies they have to navigate through, but also there's personal anxiety. If a seafarer, their family is facing a natural disaster at home, it can be a typhoon disaster in the Philippines, they feel like they're there, they speak to their families, but they feel very helpless, they can't really help. So every advancement designed to make life at sea easier, it also creates new forms of pressure at the same time. This can be technical, psychological, or operational. So here we have just put into numbers a little bit based on the calls that we have received in 2025 from the seafarers. This is our own data, and this shows as well that family relationships, it is something that impacts them. It is why they would call us workplace concerns. It can be because of the workload, conflicts as well with co-workers. It can also be a generational gap. Abuse and bullying as well, of course, is there. Trauma and post-traumatic stress. This can be an incident that happened on board. It can be because of geopolitical tensions where they might have been involved, something they saw, something that happened. And this creates stress, anxiety, depression, trauma. It's a long list, individual crisis, but these are the top 5. So fatigue and mental health issues, they often remain undetected. We know that seafarers don't call us because of various reasons. And this also brings me to the compliance and regulation, where I want just very briefly to touch on, to see where we are now. We are heading into a right direction, but it's still a very, very long way to go. There are some movements. There is growing regulatory and focus on psychological safety that was also mentioned a few times today, harassment, fatigue, all issues that are seafarers facing on board. But still, there's a big gap. It's also very difficult to identify, there's no metrics. It's difficult to detect those because simply many times they're not reported because, yes, there is fear for retaliation, possibly, or also the fear that they will not find their way back to their jobs if they declare any mental issues. So what can be done? Compliance is not enough, just being compliant. It is really about equipping the seafarers with knowledge, investing in people, and this will actually also bring me to the next slide. So what do we recommend as a 360 integrated mental health resilience support for the crew on board? So the first point here is culture. And again, it was mentioned a few times. I have listed more points here, and I will go through them. But if culture is not there, there's no value in the rest of the points. So it's really, really important to involve also the leadership to make that change in the company. We do have clients that we work very regular with them, but they work on a reactive basis. So if they have a problem, they will reach out. And we have really tried to communicate, to become more proactive, preventive, but a change in culture, of course, involves also leadership. So the leadership really needs to empower their employees to put safety and well-being of the crew first. So once that's established, the tools here is, of course, a 24/7 helpline with clinical psychologists, confidential, of course. It was mentioned today in the first panel, which I completely agree, also to find a way for those crew members to come back to their jobs, to be employed again. So if there's a seafarer that is unstable, that, for example, we might even escort back home, it is very important to give them the tools to continue the therapy, to become stable again. And then the next step is an assessment to see if those people are fit to go back on board, and if not, what is the support needed in order to get them back on board. Family support is also important. It is about educating the families, about communicating with the crew, how to communicate correctly, given that now they can reach out to them at any time, but also, of course, support the families remotely in regards to mental health matters, even back home. Continuous training, very important on many levels. E-learning is one, but this is only a start. It should be continuous. Development is very, very important. It should be for management. It should be in the offices. It should be on board for leadership on the vessels, leaderships in the office. So it's really about developing the skills of the people, but also do education and how to deal with situations on board if they may arise. Physical well-being, I have included this here because it goes hand in hand with mental health. There are options now. There's very nice applications that also encourage crew apps that encourage the crew to do exercise on board in teams, in groups. I know it's not easy. It's a confined space, so it's a little bit always challenging. But there's way now to support the crew to be physical active on board. This is my last slide. We included this a little bit last minute now, since it's quite relevant in regards to the Middle East conflict, just some practical tips how to support the crew on board. So it is important to be in contact with those vessels impacted on a daily basis if possible. We have spoken with clients and with crew the past days. Many of us report back that the situation on board is very calm, which is of course a good thing, but it can change any minute. So what we try is to educate again the crew how to react in crisis situations. Many times leaders feel they have to take that role of remaining calm, of course, but we want to make sure that they know what to do if someone is not well at any point, either if there's something happening or not. Keep in touch with the families, keep them updated. Of course, the crew, very important that they have that access to their families and to get that support, but also for the company themselves to keep the families updated on the overall situation. Access to medical guidance if needed, of course, very important, and then the access to confidential and psychological support if needed as well. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much.